Alright everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a repair on the Lemax Jolly Roger. Let's get into it. Okay, so the Jolly Roger. This one here is a 2006, and we'll get into the finer details when I do the review on this one. But today we're going to be focusing on the repair. So this ship came in a lot when I bought a few other houses recently, and as you can tell, it doesn't exactly look, perfect, but that's no problem because we're gonna fix it today. And like I've told you in the past, a lot of times you can get a decent deal on a piece if it just needs some minor cosmetic repair. And it really helps if the person selling it does have the missing pieces, which in this case, thankfully, they did. So what are we looking at? So as you can see that one of the masses or the poles that the mass is on is broken off. It has, for some reason or another been kind of broken right in the midsection there. Hopefully you can get a decent look at that. Also, one of the ships that is on the boat, like one of the little safety boats, has broken off as well. And lastly, the flag in the front of the ship has broken off too. So a few things, but they're all cosmetic. The boat does function just fine and the sound and everything works. So again, just cosmetic. And that's usually a really good piece to buy because it just doesn't take too much to get it back up and running again, and you can save a little bit of money. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Or maybe you have one laying around that, over the years has seen a little bit of damage and you want to look more into how to do a simple repair on one. So let's start with the tools that you're going to need today. Very simple. We're just going to use some crazy glue. This isn't any kind of special crazy glue, just regular crazy glue. I know it comes, I think, in like a gel form, or the off-brand comes in a gel form. I'm sure you could use that too, but in my experience, the gel is a little harder to work with and it takes longer to dry, etc. So just regular old crazy glue is just fine, or super glue if you got it. Either one works just fine. And also, the trick to gluing anything with this kind of stuff is going to be let the glue get a little tacky before you start, trying to put it together. And the only reason for that is if you try to put the piece on as soon as you put the glue on, you're gonna have to hold it a lot longer and perfectly still and all that kind of stuff. So if you let it get a little tacky, as you hold it for a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, the glue is already tacky enough to where it actually kind of helps lock it in. And so little movements don't rock it as much as it would if the glue was just completely wet. Okay, so getting right into it, we're going to start by dry fitting the mass/pole thing. And you always want to dry fit anything you're gluing just because it makes it a lot smoother of a process and takes out the guesswork when you actually have glue drying and you're on a short time limit to get it in the proper place. So you can kind of just set it there, get the feel for it, and all that kind of good stuff. Also, on this specific piece, hanging off the mass and the pole there's a small rope, quite a few of them, but one in particular that comes off where that cage is kind of hanging, that black cage there. You can see the green circle around it. That has to be basically set up on top of the boat, take the stress off of it, because if you don't, it's going to be tugging on that line the whole time and you're never going to be able to set the pole straight. So you have to get that tug out of there, and simply just setting it up on the ship will allow you to do that. So after the dry fit has been completed and you're happy with the way it's going to look, you're going to simply grab your glue and put a little tiny dab. It doesn't take much. This is pretty powerful glue. And you're just going to let it get tacky for a few seconds, like I said earlier, and then set it into place. You hold it for 10, 15 seconds, something like that, and you should be good. You'll kind of feel as you release your fingers slowly if it's tilting or not, and if it's holding, that means you're good to go. If you feel a little bit of play still, then you need to, continue to hold it. So when you're done with that, it should look something like this. So very simple, right? Nothing too complicated there, so let's continue moving forward. The next thing I want to work on is repairing the ship, or the little boat that goes onto the ship rather. When you dry fit this, because again, you're going to dry fit everything first. That's just good practice. It's kind of like measure twice, cut once. So when you're dry fitting, a lot of times you can feel when you're putting it on, like where the break was, it sits like, it kind of doesn't lock in, but you can feel where it kind of like feels, it's snapped right into the exact spot that it used to be in. And if you kind of just wiggle your finger on it, it'll feel some semi-locked, I guess you could say. And that's usually a good indication, you know, that you've got it perfectly back in the right spot. This isn't an exact science, doesn't work every single time, but a lot of the time, if nothing, when it broke, you know, chipped off along the way or anything like that, a lot of times it'll just sit back in perfectly. So we're gonna dry fit it, and when we're done with that, we're gonna repeat the process. Just gonna grab our glue, add a little dab on the spot where, you know, it was, a little bit on the bottom of the boat, and we're going to put the boat back where it belongs. And again, I'm also feeling for the, you know, that lock that we just spoke of, that little snap, you know, that it's, you know, perfectly set. So when you're done, it should look something like this. And now let's move on to the very last thing. So this one is, again, simple just like the rest, but it is in a little bit of an awkward spot, and sometimes you're going to run into that when you're working on Lemax pieces. Again, not impossible, not difficult, just a little awkward, so you might have to hold this one a little bit longer than some of the others, just because it's kind of at a weird angle, I guess you could say. Kind of just, there's not a lot that it's grabbing onto. And then after that, it was perfect, as good as new. You'll see it should look something like this. And we're done. That's it. There's not a lot here, you know, and most of the time when they're repairs, it usually starts as a cosmetic thing. Yes, there's gears and things that go out along the way, but a lot of the time they just get bumped here or there or dropped, you know, or whatever, you know, in the box when you're moving it around or whatever. And little things like this just kind of break off. You know, there's not a lot of glue holding them on. And sometimes that happens, especially on like the flags and posts, things like that. It's just they're small little pieces, right? So sometimes they just need a little help. So no big deal. We got it all back up and running. We have once again completed our mission for today. You can see the boat is back to 100%, and yes, the rope that looks like it's kind of like just hanging there, there's no tension on it, it's supposed to be that way. There's, I think, 4 ropes in that section there, not counting the one with the cage, and one of them is supposed to kind of be loose like that. Again, referencing the box, right? So, you know, the ropes did cause a little bit of balancing act with the, you know, leveling of stuff and the tension and pulling things one way or the other. So you got to get it just right. So you'll feel around with that, but it's, again, simple to do, no problem. The only exception, I would say, if you're doing something that is a little bit of a bigger piece, you know, that kind of has to take maybe some more weight, or it's just larger in size, sometimes, you know, using hot glue would be a better option for that. I'm sure people have even mixed the glue along the way, but, you know, just use your judgment call. If it's a small piece, there's nothing wrong with a little crazy glue, because a lot of times with the thicker glues, you know, it'll show or spill out, things like that. So, you know, just use your best judgment, but, you know, if all you have is a glue gun, then that would have done this job just fine. So all in all, we are done. We're good to go. I hope to do a review on this not too far away here. It's definitely on the list of things to do and to get to. So I want to thank you once again for joining me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.